every time I see that sun coming up or just the sky changing a different color, I'm in awe, right? I'm absolutely in awe. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, it's a totally different color. And just, I think that it brings that connection of just having those feelings again that we sort of train out of us. And so just being curious and just the beauty and the appreciation and the gratitude, I think that nature is just a wonderful teacher for that.
Nature is a place that we nourish our spirit again. You know, when you're feeling busy and parched and overscheduled, it's just a reminder of your humanness, is that you're human, you're part of this big, beautiful world. There's a connection to all that emotional stuff that sometimes gets buried beneath the just to doing. Welcome, Melissa Sundermann, to Minding Your Minutes. I am so glad you're here, and I can't wait for our conversation. Just to orient our listeners and viewers, so I know you from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. We both attended the conference, and I've been fascinated with your work in Nature as Medicine. I attended your talk. It was fabulous. So I want you to talk about your interest. And then I also know you as a physician from Canyon Ranch in Lenox. And so another place of connection, because I love Canyon Ranch. So we'll riff on that, but welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be here. And thank you for coming to my talk at ACLM. I think that conference, after being remote for 2 years, was just this positive energy of over 2,000 people. And for those 3 or 4 days, we were living in this like utopia world. And so I think it all really supercharged us and brought a lot of us together that are really on this mission just for overall well-being and to improve the overall health and well-being of not only ourselves, but our patients and clients and individuals that we work with.
Oh, I could not agree more. And it was utopia, and yet it's also possible in everyday life.
Absolutely.
And that's
and evidence-based. I think that's, what really is the groundwork there, is that we are evidence-based.
Yeah. And so that's what I really want to talk to you about, is this idea of bringing your own well-being into your life. So as a busy physician practitioner and all the other things you do, and then also how you really work patients through that process to understand that it's not just when you're at Canyon Ranch or when you're at this magnificent meeting that's utopia, but how do you do it every day? So why don't you start there with, either your experience with every day or a patient guide, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, and maybe I'll start you through kind of my journey, which brought me to the chair I'm sitting in today. So I went to medical school a long time ago, back in the early 90s, and I am a DO, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, osteopathy. And so we're trained from the get-go a little bit more integrative, that the body is an integrated system. And so I always had that deep within myself of just looking at a person as a whole entity, right? Mind and the body and the spirit. And so I went on to do residency in internal medicine because I loved a little bit about everything. I liked hospital work and I liked office work. And as my career progressed, when I was working at the University of Michigan, I had the opportunity to do a year-long faculty scholars in integrative medicine. And this was a different program than Andrew Weil's program, where this was just a year long. And we met just on Fridays. And rather than learning specific processes like acupuncture or Reiki, we were introduced to practitioners of complementary and alternative medicine. So each week we'd have a different practitioner come in, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine or homeopathy or naturopathic medicine or massage. And we would learn from them about their philosophy and how they approached wellness and care. And so really what that did for me was just opened up my eyes and my heart that there are so many ways to heal someone, and then so many components of well-being, and put me just on this pathway where I didn't know it was going to take me, but I just had that, it just so resonated with me. And so after that, I went on and did a professional training in mind-body medicine with James Gordon's program, the Center for Mind-Body Medicine, which is, it was transformational. His programs, when you do these professional training programs, it's experiential, right? So you get some didactic, but then you're actually doing the mind-body skills yourself. And so just came away from that transformation of enlightenment and just knew that my life's work would be going down a pathway. Now, like you alluded to, we all have busy lives, and was raising a young family at the time and wearing my doctor's hat. I'm wearing my mom's hat and my soccer mom hat, and my daughter was a diver. So trying to, juggle all this. And I always worked and had this passion. And so when my kids went off to college, they're now 21 and 23, but when they were starting to head off to college, and I felt like I had a little bit more time to devote to my true passions as far as my career and my loves. I love my kids and my family, but just in terms of the workplace and what I felt my calling was, I came upon the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And for me, it was like coming home, because I found this body of other practitioners and evidence-based that really looked at the whole person and really approached wellness in a sustainable way. And it's not that we're opposed to medications or procedures or anything like that. It's that we really understand that lifestyle is so critical, as the root of most chronic diseases are lifestyle behaviors. So really to approach treatment for my patients and for myself that way of addressing the pillars of lifestyle medicine, I just felt like this is my calling. And when you talk about wellness, I like to think about the pillars as spokes on a wheel, right? And so I'm an avid bike rider. I've got a mountain bike and a gravel bike, and I've broken a spoke before on a wheel. And I'll tell you what, that wheel does not revolve so nicely when you've got a broken spoke. And so if you think about the pillars of lifestyle medicine, and no one is perfect by any stretch of the means. And, you might have some stress going on, so other pillars are struggling, but knowing that all the pillars are equally important and that we want them to be balanced so that that wheel can revolve in a healthful way. And so maybe should I go through the pillars of lifestyle medicine? Maybe some of your listeners are not familiar, or do you think that they are familiar?
I think it's worth, to go through the pillars, and then perhaps also give us just an example of somebody you're thinking about patient-wise that's out of balance, and how you have that conversation with them.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the 6 official pillars of lifestyle medicine. Number 1, food is medicine. And like Hippocrates said many, many centuries ago, he's the father of medicine. He said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And we do advocate for a plant slant dietary pattern, whole foods and foods that are rich in phytonutrients and antioxidants. So dietary pattern rich in fruits and vegetables and beans and whole grains, nuts and seeds. So that's our food is medicine. Second pillar is exercise. I tend to use the word movement instead of exercise. Sometimes when I talk to patients, they're like, exercise? I mean, I have to join Planet Fitness and like go on a machine that's really boring, and I don't want to do that. I say, no, move your body. What resonates with you? Do you love birds? Go out and go bird watching. That's movement. Do you, love to go swimming? Do you love to ride your bike? Do you like to practice yoga? So form, ways of moving our bodies is the second pillar. Third pillar is sleep and optimizing our sleep. And we're learning more and more about the power of sleep and the necessity for sleep. I think that, when I was in residency, and that was back before we had the reforms, so we would work 36-hour shifts, and I was convinced that I didn't really need sleep, and how wrong I was, right? And now I make sleep a priority, and we all should, because there's so much healing that goes on while we sleep. The fourth pillar is avoidance of risky behaviors, such as tobacco, excessive alcohol, and drug use. The fifth pillar is managing our stress, and that we all have stress in our life, different levels, from individual to individual, different forms. Some days it's better than others, but we all have stress, and learning tools to manage that. I alluded to doing the mind-body medicine professional training, and I know that you're very interested in mindset work, of just having tools in our tool bag that we can use, whether it's breath work or meditation, mindfulness, of just having a toolkit to help manage our stress. And the sixth final official pillar is social connection. And I think if we need a social psychology experiment about the role of connection, is we look at lockdown during the pandemic. Yeah. And for 2 years we were told, don't leave your house, don't talk to anyone, face to face, don't touch anyone, God forbid, don't hug anyone. And that we all just felt this void, right? We all could sense that, and we're learning more and more about the impact of loneliness and the disease burden that goes along with loneliness. So finding ways to connect with friends and family or work colleagues or your hobbies or your places of worship, of just knowing that we need to be connected with others. And then I am on a big campaign to one day, fingers crossed, I have big dreams, to have a seventh official pillar. Right now I call it Dr. Sundermann's seventh unofficial pillar, and that is daily exposure to nature and fresh air.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's so many health benefits, mental and physical health benefits of getting outdoors. And Hippocrates, man of brilliant quotes, also said, the physician treats, but nature heals. And I totally believe in that. So that's a little contextual background about how I approach patient care. And I'll give you an example. At Canyon Ranch, it's wonderful because I get the time to really get to know my patients. I was in conventional medicine for about 24 years and absolutely loved my entire pathway and all my experiences I had. But the way that medicine is set up is primary care physicians, most physicians get very little time with their patients. So it's really difficult in 15 minutes to really take in a whole story. Mm-hmm. And for an example, having a patient who's sort of in midlife and, raising a family and working and struggling with mood and struggling, they want to lose weight, and not really knowing, and just doesn't feel good. I'm tired all the time. I can't focus. I just feel like I'm in this fog, and I've gained weight, and I feel down, and really looking at the context of all 7 of those pillars. Mm-hmm. Because you can work on one pillar. We could say, okay, let's have you move your body more. But if you're not addressing the other pillars, we're really not going to optimize health and well-being. And so really having the time to hear someone's life story and where they are at on those pillars, because sometimes they'll be like, well, I'm doing fine on this pillar. I sleep like a rock. And I'm like, that's wonderful. Okay. Or I don't smoke. I don't like alcohol. And, I don't choose to do any drugs. Great. So really validating when individuals are like, yeah, that's really hasn't been my issue. But, maybe, in asking about their dietary patterns, or do they move their bodies, or how's their stress level, and hearing their story. And sometimes there hasn't even been that connection, because I had a patient who, to me, had all of these life stressors going on. I mean, so many different avenues. And for her, it was like this light bulb moment of like, do you think that's stressful? And I'm like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So sometimes it's just bringing that to light, that all of these things going on in your life, all those pillars, not only will impact your well-being, but also when we look at chronic diseases, we now know that 80 to 90% of chronic diseases are lifestyle related. And when I see patients coming to my office for symptoms, about 80% of symptoms are stress related, right? So stress can manifest as rashes, as headaches, as brain fog, as irritable bowel, as achy joints, all of that kind of stuff. And so when you are able to educate and empower patients of just like, okay, this, we can work on this. And this is not, you have these chronic diseases or you have these symptoms and that's just the way it is. We're going to put you on a pill to put a Band-Aid on and treat it. It's like, let's uncover what we've got going on here. And then once we uncover it, let's give you some tools to help improve and optimize that.
Yeah, I knew you were my people because, that conversation to really help them connect all those dots, that they're one person and all of these things are important. And it doesn't sound to me as if you're educating, but you're not lecturing. It sounds to me as if you're really interested in their story.
Absolutely. It needs to be a partnership, right? Sure. And, an individual knows themselves the best, right? So it is not for me to say, well, this is how you feel, this is how you act, this is, and I think that sometimes in medicine we're trained because we give like recommendations and advice all the time. And so I love the concept of motivational interviewing, right? Yeah. And I think as physicians, we need to do more of that because it's a partnership. And yes, my skill set and what I've been trained in is different and I can help, give advice, but ultimately what's so rewarding for myself as a physician, as a healer, and I think for my patients is when I can educate, I can support and empower, right? And because if I just give a pill, which I prescribe medication, absolutely, but what does a pill do to empower someone, right? But if I could educate and support my patients on the pillars of lifestyle medicine and they make these changes, I'm not doing it for them. They're doing this all by themselves. Wow, that's incredible, right? It's like, look, doc, like I'm doing this. And so that's where, I mean, I think when it's a whole nother topic of burnout and things like that, but for me, just seeing my patients get their life back, was so rewarding, and that they do it on their own. I just kind of went along for the ride, right? I got you started, right? I took the training wheels off, but you learned how to ride that bike yourself.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm a coach, and so when I have physicians that are coaches as well, whether they call themselves coaches or not, I'm just my tail is wagging. It makes me so happy to hear that the conversation that you have with patients. And so I want to have some time to talk about that's unofficial pillar that you mentioned, because I know it's a passion of yours. But I want to ask you a question. So being in nature as the seventh pillar, I make that as a spirit connection, and I'm curious about, just tell me more about why that's so important to you. How do you think about nature in the bigger context of a whole person?
Yeah. So I developed this connection to nature before I even knew it was a thing, right? I think that in high school and college, I just felt so alive in nature, and I was in college at the time, in medical school at the time, and I just felt this calling to go outdoors, and a lot of times I was moving my body, whether it was riding a bike or going hiking or going running or maybe swimming outdoors, but not necessarily. Sometimes it was just sitting outside and just feeling the wind on my face or feeling the warm sun, and so that's just sort of became part of me and what I used as my own medication, knowing that I felt connected. And now we know about biophilia, and E.O. Wilson did some wonderful work in the term of biophilia, and that we are, as living organisms, connected to all things living. And I think what's beautiful about nature is that it is one of those areas in life where we can really tap into all five of our senses when we talk about mindfulness, right? And I'll have patients that I talk about stress management and I talk about mindfulness and meditation, and they're like, oh, doc, no way, I cannot sit there. My mind is just
right.
So I introduce them to, this concept of nature, and I call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which it's not my idea. I, learned about it from other people. And that you can practice mindfulness, which mindfulness is just being in the present moment. And nature is one of those areas that you can use all five of your senses, right? So yesterday we had a really beautiful day up here in the East Coast, and we have trails here at Canyon Ranch. So during my lunch break, in between patients, I went out for a walk and I practiced this. So first off, I focus on 5 things I can see. So I stay in the present moment, and I'm aware of 5 things. I saw some chipmunks, I saw a bunny rabbit, I saw the snow that had just fallen, I saw the trees rustling, and then I go to 4 things I can hear. And I could hear a bird song, and I could hear the wind, I could hear, we have a little brook, so I could hear the water rippling. And then 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can smell, and then 1 thing I can touch. I can reach down and touch the snow. Touch and then taste. And tasting, you got to be careful. So,
exactly.
but that it's breaking down barriers, and I think that that's one thing that I strive to do with my patients. Of lifestyle change is difficult, and behavior change is difficult, and I think that nature is wonderful because, for most of us, nature is accessible, and that's a whole other conversation of, I think that every individual should have access to nature, and we have disparities. We have food deserts, but we also have nature deficits. And part of my goal is to make sure that, work on projects that make nature accessible to everyone. So just getting outdoors, and I've learned that this helps me manage my stress and my mood. I think like everyone, we tend to, I think of myself, and if anything, like I tend to be more a ruminator or anxiety or things like that. And so every morning, pretty much, I make it a habit to get outdoors in the morning. And it just really sets the tone for my day. It grounds me. It is that self-care time of just, it's my meditation. And now we know that there's benefits that are, that are happening while I'm doing that. So I think that I've learned that it is medicine for me. And for other individuals, yes, you need to take other medicines too. You can't just go out, get off your medications and just go out in nature. No, 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 I'm not saying that at all. But I've found that it's just incredibly healing. And I strive to get outdoors every single day and really make that a priority, no matter where I am. And sometimes that can be a little complicated for traveling or things like that, or the weather in Massachusetts and Michigan, where I'm from, can be suboptimal. But one of my favorite quotes is, "There's no bad weather, just inappropriate clothing." So
I love that.
Yes, so make sure that you've got some gear, and then once you're dressed appropriately and you have the right gear, then it becomes not as a barrier. So that's why I feel so strongly about advocating for this, is that I've seen the power of nature in my own life and how transformative it has been. And when I think about really stressful periods of my life, I'm in my 50s now, and I think that, again, everyone has their different stressors, but for me, some of the most difficult points in my life emotionally is I still made it. I knew that I needed to get outdoors every day. And I love Rich Roll, who's another podcaster. I think he has a wonderful podcast. I love his quote, "Mood follows action." Okay? And so many times it gets reversed. Action follows mood, of like, well, I don't feel like eating healthy today. I don't feel like moving my body today. I don't feel like meditating today. Rather, if we flip it to mood follows action, we will take that action, and I'm guarantee you about 99.9999% of the time you say, wow, I feel a lot better now.
Yeah. And perhaps it gives you the energy, the will, the ability, the empowerment to take an action on another lifestyle pillar.
Absolutely. These are all interconnected. Yeah. And when one of the pillars is really lacking, chances are it's going to affect the other pillars, like those spokes on a wheel. And we want a smooth revolution, right? And so I think that when you really, and it's progress, not perfection. When you're working all of those pillars, they all feed off of each other, right? If you're moving your body and you probably don't want to smoke a pack of cigarettes before. If you're moving your body, you're going to be building up adenosine during the day and you're going to sleep better. If you're moving your body, you're going to need fuel for that. So you're probably not going to chomp down a Big Mac and fries. You're probably going to want to fuel it with whole foods. If you move your body, it's going to reduce your stress probably. And if you move your body, maybe you're going to find other people to do it with. And if you move your body, hopefully you'll choose to be outdoors. So it really, it's a catalyst for everything.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you're often combining the in nature plus movement. And so it could be a sneaky way to get people moving because they really want to be outside.
I think too, like I was talking to I give a nature presentation at Canyon Ranch. One of the wonderful things about Canyon Ranch is we do a lot of education, right? We want guests to leave here and have tools to implement healthy lifestyle behavior. So we do a lot of education. And, one of the guests that I was talking to, he was talking about, well, I went for a hike, and compared to the treadmill, the time just flew by. And it tends to, because again, when we look at sustainable behaviors, we want behaviors to be sustainable. They shouldn't feel like, some days it feels like work, right? But we want this to bring joy, right? Exactly. We want all of these pillars to bring joy, because that motivates us to do it more, right? If it brings joy. And it might not be joy in the exact moment, but we want the joy to come, long term. And I'm like, exactly, because you're outdoors and you're aware, and you're just paying attention to what's your surroundings, and all of a sudden He's like, I walk 2 miles. And if I'm on a treadmill, and again, like, it's okay to go on a treadmill. Absolutely. And if that's, what works for you, I'd much rather have you moving your body on a treadmill than sitting, on a couch all day. But nature can make it really enjoyable. And I also love nature because when we're kids, we are curious. We are so curious, and we experience this feeling of wonder and awe because we're in discovery mode. And then I think as we get older, we're like, well, it's just the way it is, and I feel like I'm on auto repeat every single day, and it's just same over, same over. And nature inspires us to cultivate that curiosity, that sense of awe and wonder. And I choose every morning to go outside, and I usually go for a run, and I go early before work. And so a lot of the mornings I'm seeing the sunrise. And every time I see that sun coming up, or just the sky changing a different color, I'm in awe, right? I'm absolutely in awe. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, it's a totally different color. And I think that it brings that connection of of having those feelings again that we sort of train out of us. And so just being curious, and just the beauty and the appreciation and the gratitude, I think that nature is just a wonderful teacher for that.
Absolutely. Yes. I mic drop 100%. So because nature is a place that we nourish our spirit again. When you're feeling busy and parched and overscheduled, it's just a reminder of your humanness, that you're human, you're part of this big, beautiful world. There's a connection to all that emotional stuff that sometimes gets buried beneath just to doing. So getting back in touch with that awe and gratitude and appreciation comes easily, or more easily, when we're in nature, when we're paying attention.
Yeah, when we're paying attention. And it sounds sort of silly, but when I do witness these beautiful evolution of nature, I feel like it's my own private gift. As I'm standing there just looking at the sunrise, I'm so thankful. Thank you for this gift. And I'm like, okay, well, someone down the street can be getting the same gift. But in that moment, I feel like it's just a gift for myself, right? And just taking that in and holding that space of just, wow, I can't believe I had the privilege to witness this. But that takes, I make the choice I want to move my body. I want to get outdoors. It's important for me. It's important for my well-being. And so I make that a priority to schedule that, right? And finding ways. And sometimes there's days that are just too busy or too crazy, or I'm traveling, and so that gets set off course. But I always know that I need to come back to it, right? I think that's always that if we sort of have a day or two that are not optimal, we don't want to just fall off the wagon. It's just right. Like, okay, let's come back to this, and knowing that those are the pillars, and those are really important.
Yeah, and so for people that are listening to this, that are saying, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I work 9 hours a day or 14 hours a day, and it's dark when I leave the house, and it's dark when I get home. How do you advise them?
Yeah, so what the research and data is supporting, because I keep up on a lot of this research on nature, is that really, if you can try to get 20 minutes a day or 120 minutes per week, that is what's going to, when we look at studies of the benefits of being outdoors, of lowering our cortisol, which is our stress hormone, lowering our heart rate, lowering our blood pressure, boosting our natural killer cell activity, which is involved in immunity. Immunity not only from fighting infections, but also, could help decrease the risk of cancers, boosting serotonin levels. Really what they have found, and it seems to be consistent, is about 20 minutes per day or 120 minutes per week. So if you've got a crazy life, and you're working 2 jobs, you're raising kids, you're driving carpools, and you're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Sundermann, I can't do that. Maybe on the weekend, you say to the kids, you say to your family, you say to your partner, your friends, let's go check out a new park, and let's go for an hour walk, and get that 60 minutes in there. Or, look at your day, and maybe it's between meetings. I have a lot of patients who now work remote, and it's really easy to get sucked into the chair and the Zoom calls all day long. So I'm like, okay, so you've got like a 10-minute break between Zoom calls. Step outside. Preferably, if you could take a short walk, that'd be great. But if you can't, just step outside. And I think if we really break down our days and try to find, like, okay, where do I have space in my day, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, anything, I think we probably can come up with that. And, as far as darkness, yeah, and living on the East Coast now, where it gets dark early here. But, finding, you need to have safety. And as a female, like, I'm all about being safe, but there's things called headlamps, so I found like a safe place to walk after work, and I carry pepper spray, and I have a headlamp. So there are ways that we can work around this, but I think that really baby steps are key. Baby steps that are attainable. And when we look at SMART goals of what, behavior change is, specific and measurable and attainable and relevant and timely, we don't want to say, okay, well, really your only option is you need to go for a 5-mile jog every single morning.
Right.
No. Maybe for some people it's like 5 minutes out of your day in between meetings, or when the kids are at practice, like you drop them off. I used to do this. I've dropped my son off at soccer practice before he could drive, and I would just walk in the parking lot, while he's practicing. So trying to find ways around that and being creative, because ultimately every individual is going to have a different lifestyle and different barriers, but trying to break down what those barriers are and help guide, and coming up with, behavior change and this level of confidence scale of like, okay, I'm at like about a 1 of confidence if you tell me to run 5 miles every morning or go for a swim every morning. But I'm probably at an 8 or a 9 if you said, can you get outdoors for 10 minutes, 3 days a week? So, okay, we'll start there. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, we have some similarities there too, because I tend to help folks look for pockets of time. And then just to commit how to fill them. And so that's where the minding your minutes thing really comes from, is they're your minutes.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you how to fill them, but what is it that you really want to do to nourish your own spirit every day in some way? And so you might work all the pillars every day. You might work one a day, but at some point during that week, you're working all the pillars. Because you're human and you're alive and you're feeding this body, mind, spirit, surroundings, And so I think I really love that approach of just helping them find what fits in their schedule.
Yeah, and I think too, I think attaching habits to existing habits can be helpful, right? So an example, when I was listening to a podcast of a woman really wanted to incorporate a practice of mindfulness, and she decided on journaling. And so what they came up with was that she liked to have a cup of tea every single morning. That was her habit, and she did was her cup of tea. So again, break down all barriers. So she decided to keep a journal, and she bought a beautiful journal that she fell in love with and a really nice pen, kept her journal next to her tea kettle or her bags of tea. So it was right there, because if it's in another room, I'm like this, oh, it's in that other room, I'm just going to have my tea. I don't feel like going and looking for it. But if it's right there, and while I'm sipping on my tea, I'll journal, right? So, or every time I go to brush my teeth, I'm just going to look in the mirror and I'm going to, give myself a high five, or I'm going to do a positive affirmation. So once you have existing habits that we don't even think about, then try attaching a habit to that.
Yeah. So and that's where the movement in nature comes. So what is your sense about people who, you've mentioned the access to nature, if you don't have access to nature and you have access to pictures of nature or vacation photos of being in nature, how do you feel about that?
So we're getting more and more studies to support virtual nature can be really important, and even sound. So soundscape and landscape, or essential oils and smellscape. So all of these can be beneficial. And so if you're, saying, hey, I belong to a gym that has a treadmill, like I really don't feel safe, or it's dark, or I work a night shift and I get off late, can I go on the treadmill? Absolutely. And then a lot of them, these fancy ones now, like you can be hiking in Germany or, whatever.
Right.
So activating those areas of our brain of just, thinking about nature, seeing nature. And Dr. King Lee was one of the original investigators of Shinrin-yoku and forest bathing. And he actually did many studies. One of them, he had 12 subjects and he locked them in hotel rooms for overnight. And 6 of the subjects, their rooms emitted eucalyptus, like of, Japanese trees, and those oils from the cypress trees. And then the other room emitted like nothing. It was just like circulating air. And what he found after 3 days was that just the people who never left the room, but they were exposed to the essential oils of the cypress trees, had boosted their natural killer cell activity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just the smells. And when I talk about patients or individuals that live in big cities, Manhattan or Boston or whatever it is, and they're like, oh my gosh, I live in an apartment, what can I do? Get some houseplants, right? Get some houseplants. All of those green, anything green is emitting phytoncides, and phytoncides are, emit these antibacterial and these really healthful organic volatile compounds. So yes, so absolutely. And, I share a study in one of my talks about sounds. So the study looked at individuals, they heard 6 minutes of either bird song or 6 minutes of traffic sounds. And what they found were perceived levels of anxiety and feelings of paranoia were much lower in the bird song. And then feelings of feeling down or depression were much higher in the urban sounds. So even having beautiful nature sounds can really help out with our well-being.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to understand that you start where you are. And if you're not in this environment that's conducive in this season right now, there are other options.
Absolutely.
So baby step it potentially to a time where you're in a particular season or a particular place that is a beautiful, safe, healing space.
Yeah.
So it's not a you have to have it done in a particular way.
No. There's many ways to just access the benefits of nature,
Yeah.
And
it sounds like you have a pretty structured well-being practice for yourself, and maybe you didn't always, but you've evolved toward it. But how do you know when you're off?
So I think, how do I know when I'm off? I think that clues are I don't sleep well.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe wake up in the middle of the night, or I have dreams that I think I'm anxious because I have a recurring dream of I forgot to attend class in college, and so I show up for the exam and I never went to class. So you get those like recurring dreams.
Right.
So I'll start to see sleep patterns dissipate. I will feel more anxious, overthinking, right? I may withdraw, I love my private time. I love my alone time, but I'm a connector, and I love also when I feel like I don't feel like reaching out to my mom today, or I don't have the energy to really talk, or I don't know, maybe I'll skip my morning run. So I think being in tune to when you start noticing those feelings or those thoughts of, well, maybe I'll just skip, that should be a warning sign. And again, we need to take care of ourselves. So if you've had a really, really hectic day or a lot of stressors going on, it's okay to say, I need to take care of myself. And I love, the phrase self-care is not selfish, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
So this is the way it must be. And, every single day it must follow this order. No. But be paying attention to when things just feel a little off and acknowledging that and not shaming yourself, having compassion for yourself. I think compassion is really important, of saying, I'm struggling right now, and that's okay. And I know that I will get back. But right now I'm struggling, and I just need to sit with this for a little bit. And then, tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to do the best I can. And again, the best we can changes and ebbs and flows. And I love the 4 agreements. And one of the 4 agreements is always do your best.
Yeah.
And your best looks very different from individual to individual, and from moment to moment, and day to day, and hour by hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I appreciate you acknowledging being human. I think it's really important for all of us to do that, because it helps our patients and our clients know that even if we have strategies, we fall off the wagon. And then we realize that, oh, I'm not myself today. Yeah. And so I have a list of strategies that I can use, and they don't work all the time. And so I have a number of possibilities so that I can find the one that works today, or I can find the one that works in this hour and not beat myself up about it. I see a lot of my people they tend to be high achievers, and they beat themselves up if they don't execute the strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that reminding ourselves that we're humans, and like I love the term being flawsome, right? Instead of awesome, I'm flawsome. Like I have
That's
flaws, but I'm
fabulous.
still pretty great, right? So
Yeah,
I take pride in being a flawsome person.
I love that. And I will steal it. And I'm glad you said it.
Okay, excellent. You can
I will
join my
credit you.
flawsome group.
Yeah, I love that. And so, moment by moment, you're working on being as blossom as you can in that moment, which is
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so, I know you have lots of irons in your own fire. So, what are you the most excited about for 2023, the rest of it?
Wow, like I love this concept of the modern elder. So,
Ooh,
I'm in my 50s,
okay.
and I just feel like, wow, like my kids are, I'll call them partially launched. They're 21 and 23. So one's out of college, one's in senior in college. And so I just feel like I've had, decades of experience with my profession and just living life and life experiences, right? Not all of them great, but they're
Yeah.
part of my chapters and my stories in life. And I wouldn't trade them because I've learned really to be authentic and vulnerable. And I think as an individual and also as a clinician, the the experience of being vulnerable and authentic have been so rewarding to make me more empathic
Mm.
with my patients. Of like, I might not be standing in your shoes, but wow, I've been through some stuff, and I can sit with you with this. So having the courage to be vulnerable and authentic, it takes a bit of adjusting. But now
Yeah.
being in my 50s, I've just learned to the things that just I have a passion for and I care about, of just connecting with others and putting it out to the universe. So that being said, I've got a lot of things. So I started this position at Canyon Ranch in October, and I know you've been to Canyon Ranch, and it's a wonderful place where I get to practice lifestyle medicine. And I have a whole team of integrative healers on my team. We have nutritionists, we have spiritual healers and mental health healers, and sports medicine and exercise physiology, and a teaching kitchen. So it really is rewarding to be in a place that really puts wellness first and foremost. So that's been a really, I'm really proud that I followed my pathway of lifestyle medicine and had the courage to leave conventional medicine, because a lot of people will stay and I, again, nothing against conventional medicine, but I felt like where I wanted to go with my training in lifestyle medicine is I really wanted to just practice this. And so I'm so excited that I have the opportunity to. And then as I've just been putting myself out there, a couple of projects that I'm really excited about is we are officially launching this week. It's a nature app, so it's called Nature Time app,
Oh, I love it.
and yeah, Nature Time app. And Iris Rosen is the one who developed this app, and I'm going to be doing content for it. So I've taped a lot of vlogs, and so I'll have my own little Dr. Melissa and lifestyle medicine. So I talk about a lot of the benefits of nature and lifestyle medicine. So that's exciting to have a platform to talk about my passion through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which we have about 10,000 members. I just launched the official Nature as Medicine subcommittee. So that's really exciting that the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is recognizing this and supporting this, and that we are going to have a louder voice to transform the concept of nature as medicine. So I'm leading that charge. And then another project that I'm getting ready to launch is with a fellow lifestyle medicine physician colleague, Robin Tiger. And Robin is
Mm.
also known as Stress Free MD,
Sure.
and both certified in lifestyle medicine. And so we are coming together, and we're going to be launching a program called Revive. And Revive, our first cohort, is going to be for physicians. It's going to be well-being coaching using lifestyle medicine pillars. And so we're going to work with physicians as physicians, and really, because we know that there's a lot of burnout going on in all careers. We are familiar with medicine because that's the field we're in. And as lifestyle medicine practitioners, we really know that yes, the headspace we need to work on, but also all those pillars, because as we talked about before, they all build off of each other. So if you're not eating properly and not moving properly and not sleeping properly and not engaging in risky behaviors, it's going to be really hard to change
Mhm.
that mindset. So we are going to be launching Revive coming up in the next well, in the spring. So those are some things, and along the way, just talking to people and like yourself, and it's just a blast. I am having a lot of fun. I've got people in my 50s who are asking me about when I'm going to retire. And I said, retire? I feel like I'm just getting started,
Yeah.
I feel like I've collected the life experience and the professional experience to really, I'm going to call them passion projects, but they're passion projects, but they're not these like, well, I've already done my thing and now I'm just going to, I'm just, they're absolutely aligned with me both personally and professionally.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, the passion absolutely shows. So I'm excited to know more about this coaching program and the app. And I'm already a part of the MIG in ACL.
Thank you.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see where this takes you.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and some really actionable tips that folks can take just from listening to this podcast. So thank you for your generosity in that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, so I will watch with interest. If someone wants to get in touch with you or learn more about your work, where should they contact you?
So I'm on Instagram as @motivatormelissa.
Okay.
And then I'm also on Facebook. And then I'm very involved on LinkedIn. So if you request to follow me, Melissa Sundermann on LinkedIn, I do a lot of postings there. Our program for Revive, and right now we're starting off with just physicians, but we have plans to expand that. And that's going to be just one under Stress-Free MD. And Dr. Tiger has it under her platform. I also have a link tree on my Instagram that you can find my Nature Time app link, and well, not mine, but the Nature Time app link that I'm providing content for, as well as the Revive program, waitlist and description. So I think those are the main platforms. And Canyon Ranch's website you can check out, and that's just canyonranch.com. And there's a profile biography about me if people want to know more about my work, or come see me at Canyon Ranch.
Awesome. And so we'll link to that profile as well. And we'll have another conversation at some point offline about Canyon Ranch, because it was a huge balm for my own spirit.
So happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Yeah. So thank you, Melissa, for your time and your energy and your passion. And we'll keep in touch. I will have people that I want to connect to your app and your MIG. And so I'll see you again.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.